$1,000 a month living in Thailand even feasible?
Are you single? Do you want to live in a one-room apartment or a condo somewhere? Maybe. You want to eat market food every day? Maybe. And if you want to have a partner, whether you bring one of your own or you find one here, that partner costs money. So whatever you're living on, now you have to double that.
Okay, as you saw that introduction, all this amazing stuff we're going to be talking about, we're going to jump right into it. So this is with Terry Fox. And yeah, Terry, first, thanks for coming. And just let us know a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and what are you doing in Thailand?
Thanks, Brandon. Terry Fox, a.k.a. Sandy Beach. I moved to Thailand in January 2015. I came here in my retirement. In Chicago, I was a musician, DJ, promoter, booking agent, event production, and I came here to retire. And I got to Hua Hin in, I guess, June of 2015, and by July of 2015, I was playing regularly at a jam at a Thai Y in Pak Nam Pran. Eventually, the owner of the bar asked me to run the jam, and I ran the jam for about 3 years, and there and at his next place. And so I met a lot of the foreign musicians at the time that were playing in town, met a lot of the Thai musicians at various places. And, back then, from 2015 until, say, 2020, 21, when the new police chief came, as a foreigner playing, it was pretty safe, to play without a work permit and because pretty much every venue owner had some deal going. So then it got unsafe, but it kind of coincided with I had a lot of nerve damage in my hand. I can't play guitar anymore. So I sort of retired actively. And when I retired, people I would see on Facebook in the groups and stuff, people would say, "Oh, there's no music in town. I wish there was music in town." And I would say, "Well, yes, there is. There's music all over town, like every day." And they go, "Where?" And it just started with me answering a few people. And then someone said, "Hey, they said you know where this is, where the blues is, or where a good rock band is, or, what's open till 12, or, So I decided to just make a thing of it. And I spent 3 months mining every group. And I have a group on Facebook called Hua Hin Musicians and Music Fans, where bands have been posting for a long time, their stuff, and the venues post. So I kind of scraped all that. I went all around, and I put together a database of who, what, when, and where.
So consolidating all that information, especially for people looking for live music in Hua Hin, were you kind of on different, let's say, Hua Hin groups, expat groups, and responding and communicating there? Yeah,
and it started with just a few, but the responses that I got to what I was putting out there were really good, and I liked that I quelled a lot of weird beliefs that A, there wasn't good music here, B, that there was no place to see music here, and C, that all the bands sucked, and it's not true. So I had a lot of obstacles to overcome, but I post today, when I post every morning by 9 o'clock, what today's music is, I post to 28 groups, not only to my own page, Sandy Beach, but I post to 28 groups.
Like Hua Hin expat groups and lifestyle groups.
Yep.
So people can find that information. Do you feel that once you got this started and consolidating that information, that the music scene has expanded, or has it always already been that active?
No, I think attendance at gigs has expanded immensely. The bands were always there, even though people didn't know they were there. And I think one thing, on my page on Facebook, it just says, "I'm the man on the street, the man on the beat, just want to bring people to the music." I don't promote any one particular venue. I don't promote any one particular band. I mean, I have my own personal favorites, but I just want people to be able to know where they can go to see what they want to see: jazz, rock, blues, blues rock, you know, and country in this town means, you know, northeastern country,
like Isan country.
Yeah, Isan country. So, but I put out there for foreigners and Thai people. You know, I got a lot of Thai followers, and I'm really, you know, tight with the Thai musician community, which, you know, I've rarely encountered a community. I mean, I was a musician in Chicago for 50 years, and we didn't have a community like they have here.
How did you initially get into music? I mean, you said you were working for FedEx, so this would have been your passion.
Well,
FedEx just walk us through that.
FedEx was what I did in the middle. My grandmother and grandfather were working Texas swing musicians back in the 30s, 40s, and 50s. They had guitars around their house all the time. I'm left-handed, so I would pick them up and goes like this. And Grandma, the first big lie she told me was, "Oh, honey, they don't make guitars like that. You have to go like this." And, you know, when I went like that, it just messed me all up trying to play like this. I'm glad that eventually my dominant hand became my finger hand. But I eventually, you know, throughout my 10, 11, 12, 13, 14s, you know, I learned how to strum some chords and play some notes and play some songs, you know, and then, I know, and I'm 73, so in the 60s was happening. So, you know, I wanted to be in a kind of a rock band, but I lived in Chicago, and it was blues, 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 blues. And I tired of blues. But by the time I was 18 or 19, I didn't want to ever play the blues again. And then I kind of played around, and then music got, and I'll just say this, in the mid-'70s, music just got dull to me. It was bad FM radio music, and it was disco. And then in my town, in Chicago, in 1977, punk rock happened. And one punk disco opened up, and it was the most phenomenal thing I'd ever experienced. Just, it was. And all the music that it exposed me to. And
this would have been like the Ramones around this time.
Yeah, Ramones, Pistols, the Clash, you know, and I was working at a record distributor at the time, and they asked me to start doing meet and greets with their bands at the various places that were now had new wave and punk music. And eventually I left the record distributor to go to a record store that was the apex of all import music and reggae. It was just like, you know, where you had to be in the scene. And I worked at this record store for a while, and I got a band going. So I had a band called Clocks in Chicago, and we were very successful, and we played throughout, you know. I left the band in 1980, well, in 81, because I got an opportunity to own my own nightclub. A guy came to me and said, "You got ideas. I've seen all the clubs you manage. You always make money. You always have great entertainment. You know, I hear about you." And little did I know he was in the mafia, but, you know, he said, if you come to this club I have, that's a piece of, it was a wreck. The place was a wreck. If you can fix this place up and do something with it. And I did. You know, I left the band. I opened this club, Exit, in Chicago, and, you know, it was like the first multimedia kind of club to have everything, you know, not just live music, not just DJs, but I had comedy. I was right across the street from Second City in Chicago. So, you know, I had comedy, I had improv, people who couldn't do Second City, you know, they were Improv Olympic was in a garage at the time. And to do a show, they came to my club to do a show. Now Improv Olympic has a giant theater in Chicago. So, you know, a lot of things happen. I would show experimental films and things like that. And I did that for about 3 years, and then I burned out, you know, and my partner was a bad man. So I really had to get out of that situation.
Were you really in the mix of things during the early 80s? I mean, this would have been the beginning of SNL. I mean, guys like Bill Murray coming out of that whole scene in Chicago. Were you kind of brushing shoulders at that time?
Yes. They came to my club because they thought that music was cool. John Belushi was there like all the time
because of the blues.
and but he was. It started when they were shooting Blues Brothers, and then down the street from my club, like literally 5 doors down, was they opened up a after hours club, and so when they were done shooting, they could go there. But Belushi would come over, and he had like 5 songs. He would have my DJs play, and we would just give him the whole dance floor because he was a madman. But Sonic Reducer and Break On Through, which we didn't normally play the Doors, but he had to hear it. So and Aykroyd, those guys would just come over and hang out, but they literally had their own place just 4 doors down from me. So it was we would literally go there after we were done. We closed at 4, so we would go there.
All the stories of, especially that crew in the 80s, and a lot is coming now out with Chevy Chase, and everyone says, well, Chevy is Chevy. I guess that's a nice way of saying it. Did you, was it that intense in the 80s in the club scene? Because there was no social media back then. There's no records. It's just stories.
Yeah. In Chicago, we had a thing, and they still do, called the Chicago Reader. It's a free newspaper. It's weekly. And it had the personals. And the personals of the Chicago Reader in the 70s and 80s and 90s was the equivalent of social media. Only you had to wait 1 week. You could send a message to someone, and then you had to wait a week for them to answer. And that was the closest that we could ever get. Nobody had cell phones. Pagers weren't even out at that point. And so, getting connected with people was before you left your house. Where are you going to be tonight? Well, first we're going to Neo, and then we're going to Exit, and then maybe we'll go to O'Banion's, and so that's how people went. And there was a whole taxi service on the north side of Chicago. The taxis would just make runs, the 10 o'clock run, the 11:30 run, and since most bars were open till 4, the 2 o'clock bars, they'd be at the 2 o'clock bars. We'll bring everyone to the 4. And I don't even know how in the 70s and 80s, because I have no recollection of any kinds of, what do you call them, depressions or recessions. Mm-hmm. All I know is I was managing nightclubs that people came to every single night and just kept throwing money on the bar and drinking and throwing money on the bar and drinking. I don't recall people not having the ability to do that. I guess in retrospect, I can look back at the news and say, oh, yeah, there was some recession and people lost their jobs and gas was hard to get. It never really affected me in that way. And then I went to work with, after I got out of Exit, I went to work with Joe Shanahan and Joe Prino when they opened up Smart Bar, which is today, it was like the first house music bar in Chicago. And house music was big, and I love house music. And I was friends with Frankie Knuckles and Vince and all the guys, Joe Smooth, all the guys that made house music were my friends. And I loved it. I mean, as much as I was a rocker, I really loved house music. So, I went to work at Smart Bar, and it was cool, and it was a great scene. And, it evolved into taking over a big music hall that was upstairs. And, I started doing stage managing, and we had great bands, Nirvana and Billy Idol. I can't even take time to name all the bands we had at Metro until I finally burned out of that,
Did you start to burn out going into the 90s, and was it just from
No,
pure
I burned
exhaustion?
out by 84.
84.
84, I was burned completely. Yeah. And I ran into a doorman of mine who I'd fired for his excessive drug and alcohol use, and he was like all pumped up and buffed, and I said, Frankie, what the hell happened to you? And he said, I'm working at this company now. It's really great, man. All this, you can work all the hours you want and overtime and tuition reimbursement and medical and dental. And I said, well, where is this place? And he said, Federal Express, which was the original name. And I said, you work for the government? And he goes, no, the absolutely positively got to get their place. And I go, oh, I saw that commercial. And I just said to him, think you'd get me a job there? And he looked like, why would you want a job there? And I said, can you? So I did a few interviews to get jobs there. And I didn't get hired right away because I didn't drink and I didn't do drugs. And I guess the culture, and they asked me, it said, well, you've been working in the bar business for like 15 years and a lot of drugs and alcohol. And I said, yeah, but I don't do drugs and I don't drink. And they said, okay, we'll get a hold of you later, But eventually in June of 84, I got called back, I got hired, and I had a miraculous 20-year career at FedEx. Just, I owned my own business, and now I'm at the very bottom job in a worldwide company. But I just kept saying, I can do that. Mm-hmm. Who wants to? I can do that. At which
point, you said you also met your Thai wife in Chicago at that time in the U.S. Yeah. When did this all kind of come together? Because would have that kind of been your first connection to Thailand?
My first connection to Thailand was working in 1973. I was working at a jazz nightclub, and it was a full-on restaurant nightclub dinner thing, and our menu was Asian fusion. And I was doing prep work in the kitchen, and one day this Asian guy showed up at the back door and said, "I'm not going to do his accent, but I want to see the head chef." And Jimmy wasn't there at the time, and we said, "Why?" And he goes, "My name is Thai Jack, and I'm going to be the best chef you ever had in this restaurant." And we all just said, "Yeah, right." And so like, when we got done laughing at him, but he insisted, he stayed, and so we made a few phone calls and we got Jimmy down there, and our menu, was all of these weird, like shrimp Balinese. It had all these weird Asian flair to it. And so Jimmy just gave him the menu and said, pick anything on that menu. And all it had was the ingredients. And he said, and make it. And so we're like 15 people standing around. First thing he does is he turns the fire up like this high. We never cooked like that, Then he starts throwing stuff in and scorching it and then throwing some wine in it and flaming it out. And then he finishes the whole dish, pours it out on a plate, cleans it all up, and, he hands it to Jim, and he just said, this is the best one we've ever made. And so Jack was now on our line. So every day at about 3 o'clock, Jack would go, let's go eat lunch. And I said, here we are at a restaurant. We want to go eat lunch. So he started taking me to, at the time, there was 5 Thai restaurants in Chicago in 1973, 74. And I became friends with all these people because Jack spoke to them. Now, they dosed me so many times, like, oh, good Terry, hey, try this,
The chili.
Yeah, everything. Like curries, it didn't matter. They would just dose me. I'd be like, whoa. But I learned to eat really spicy food, Thai food, when I was in my early 20s. And so Thai food I became a vegetarian and a vegan, and it was easy to be at a Thai, with Thai food. So I was connected to the Thai community in Chicago, mostly only restaurant people. And then, I had Thai food. I didn't meet my third ex-wife, until, 2009. I was already retired, and I was doing property management with the other things I was doing. And she was working at a restaurant my brother frequented, and she needed an apartment. And I don't want to tell a story, but couldn't find her apartment. But we got to be friends, and the next thing I know, she moved into my house. And the next thing I know, we're getting married. Maybe to save her work, her green card or whatever, but we got married. So we were married for 5 years before we moved to Thailand. We came here in 2013, traveled from Chiang Rai to Chiang Mai. We didn't go into Isan too much, but we just kept coming down and spending a day or 2 or 3. We were here a month. We got all the way down to Surat Thani. And then I said, okay, let me figure out where I want to go. We came to Hua Hin because her mother's family was all from Prachuap City. Yep. And we went there, but on the way down there, we stopped here. And I said, wow, this is 2013, so it's a lot different. But it was a beach town without a beach road, which I thought was amazing. I don't care for beach towns with beach roads. I just don't. So I said, this is really cool here, and the beaches that my brother-in-law took me to, Soensan, Paraipat, and Kautakia Beach, I said, well, this is great. I like this here. So my goal was to get here, but we had to make a few stops on the way to satisfy family requirements. So we got to Thailand in January of 2015. I spent some time in Bangkok and said I didn't leave Chicago for this. We went to see her mom. She hadn't seen for about 7 or 8 years up in Lopburi. Spent 4 or 5 miserable months in Lopburi. And then I got here. And from here on, it's just been paradise to me.
How much total traveling time were you guys doing around Thailand before deciding to settle in Hua Hin?
Well, 1 month, and I said, I know that this is where I want to be. I had been everywhere, and I didn't live there, but as far as, how can I say, a vibe, I got a vibe from Thailand that there was a great mix of foreign people and Thai people, and they seemed to be getting along, and it seemed to be that, I could go into a store and fake my way through getting what I needed. I could order stuff at a restaurant. Now, since that time, I learned Thai, and because it's easier to get along in Thailand if you speak and understand. And I taught myself. That's done. But back then, it was me getting angry if I had to go to Home Pro and get a 3/4 inch something, and my me, my Kao Jai and my me, and
Everything's my me though.
Yeah,
it's there. You just got to look.
Right. Well, I started bringing in pictures. I started Googling what I need in pictures.
Yep.
We started working better, but it just became apparent to me that I'd do better here. I'd be less tense, more tolerant, more patient if I just spoke. So that was kind of how I learned into that. But I think the thing I loved about Hua Hin, I grew up in Chicago where the water was to the east of me all my life. And when you grew up in Toronto, you understand that lake thing,
Yep.
And so when I came through Hua Hin, I was so comfortable spatially, directionally, that there's no east. You know what I mean? There's no east. The east is the water, and everything else is the other way, north, south, and west. And I had a great level of comfort here because of that. And it just was, I never lived far from Lake Michigan.
Yeah, I never thought of it in that sense. Hua Hin doesn't have a beach road. I mean, they have the beach, but there's not a road running side by side on it where you could travel like a Phuket or something like that. It doesn't have that feeling.
But it doesn't have traffic jams like
Pattaya and
and all the beach places. I just loved that it had a main road that went through town, and the beaches were over there. If you want to get to them, you went down some tiny little road like this. But I said, he took me to Soensan Beach because he said, this is one of the nicest beaches here. And to this day, I'm there at least once or twice.
This is the one like south of Kowtow.
Yeah, it's across from the King's Park.
Yeah, and it's kind of,
on
I think
military.
if you hang right, there's a roadblock there. Is that the Princess's Palace?
No, that's in Kowtow.
Kowtow.
Yeah, this is, if you go down south,
Yep.
to where the King's Park is with the statues.
Yep.
Opposite that, there's a road that goes to.
Kind of like where
the
Sea
golf
Pine
course.
is.
Sea Pine. It is Sea Pine.
Okay, and Anastastia, or what's it called? There's a restaurant down there.
Yeah, but
and
it's called U something. Yeah,
Yep.
but I that beach is, I don't know, it's magical to me. I spent a lot of time there when I first moved here because it was just calm, and you didn't have to sit in the sun. They had beautiful pine trees. For 20 baht, they give me a chair. It was cool.
what was it about places like a Phuket or a Pattaya that it just wasn't for you?
Traffic congestion. The mix of people weren't the same as here. There seemed to be a lot of tension between the Thais and the foreigners that I didn't care for,
Yep.
And I think it was the overall pace, the pace of those places. I'm just be honest, straight up here. I didn't mind Phuket so much. I'd gone there a few times. I usually stay at cloud 19 at the very bottom.
Like Rawai, Naiharn area.
It's at the absolute tip.
Yeah.
And I don't go anywhere else.
When's the last time you've been there?
Oh, maybe 6 years ago.
Yeah, so you don't, it's a nightmare now.
Yeah.
One second, I'm going to adjust your mic a bit.
Okay.
That's a good thing of a podcast. We don't need to cut. People don't worry, guys. We're still here. If you're listening on the audio, we just adjust the mics a bit. Sometimes these chairs are very comfy. We got very lucky when we moved into this place. Like I saw this chair here and this chair here, and this was naturally here when I moved in. I'm like, studio done.
Deal.
Perfect. I think, and this is a bit off topic. You get a lot of people questioning the pronunciation of places like Pattaya, Hua Hin, you've been here a while. What's your take on that?
Man, you asked the wrong person. I'm OCD about it, and I talk to a lot of Thai people, and I ask them for the pronunciations of things, and I do my best to do what they do, and I call this Hua Hin. I know the letters. If you try to take Thai characters, which represent sounds, and turn them into English letters, which also represent sounds, you're not always going to get what the actual pronunciation is. I understand that, but there's people who come here and it's Hua Hin, and okay, it's always going to be Hua Hin, and you just said Pattaya, but over there they call it Pattaya, and I think Phuket's pretty easy. That's a pretty easy one.
I think it's boo, which is fun. Phuket.
It's boo.
Phuket.
You make that sound with your
people don't realize that the way that it's spelt and pronounced, like you're saying.
Phuket.
We don't have that sound in English, so they try to make it as close as possible.
Well, what the original, I said I've done a lot of background on this. What the original people putting phonetic things together, the sound, the p sound. They used PH, but in English, PH is F. And so that caused a lot of confusion, but I can't think of another way. I mean, personally, I was like, well, you did the best you could with that. But, once you understand that PH is not F.
And they try now it's like a BP.
Well, then that's even B.
Yeah.
By.
Yeah.
And then, everybody's understanding of how to say or write or pronounce food, Thai food. It's like everyone's got their own thing, what they call it.
Yeah, I lived in Taiwan and then I lived in China, and there's two different, we call them pinyin. Pinyin is like how you would write it phonetically, for an English reader. And in Taiwan, I lived in a city called Hsinchu. So if you're in Taiwan, they'll write it HSIN. But then the Chinese adapted it in China and it's XIN. So it's the same issue when you're in these places and you're trying to read the pinyin or how they would pronounce it. It's very challenging. You're kind of guessing as well.
There's that proper phonetic thing like that where in say for example Google Translate. If you you put something in Google Translate, you're going to get that phonetic thing.
No, we're good.
Oh, okay, you're going to get that phonetic thing with those symbols that represent the tones, and I get that, and the accents. But I had when I first moved to Thailand, I got this app called Thai Language Lite, but it had the best phonetical spellings of Thai words and sounds of any app out there. And I used that to amass a vocabulary of about 500 words, verbs, nouns, pronouns, adjectives, and phrases, and I put it all in an Excel spreadsheet. And I studied it, and I would break out stuff and put it in my phone. And sometimes I'd be at Blueport or I'd be at Market Village sitting around drinking coffee at Amazon or whatever, and I would be looking at my phone, and people just naturally assumed I was on Facebook or Instagram or something, and I wasn't. I was studying Thai, And then I say this in public, I spent a lot of time in bars around Hua Hin because I was working and playing in them. But, you know, bar girls can help you learn Thai really, really well. And I'm not committing to bar girls as a sense, but if you're at a bar and you're hanging out and you're playing Connect 4 or Jenga or whatever, speak Thai with them, you know, and they will help you. They'll correct you properly. You know, they won't placate you. And that was how I learned a lot, because my Thai wife that I moved here with was very unhappy to be here after about 4 months. It wasn't what she remembered. She had lived the life in Chicago, making big money, having her own car, having, you know, a choice of jobs and shopping. And so she went back to Chicago every year in March to work, came back in November. So I spent a lot of time, you know, amusing myself with my friends. You know, I mean, I went out with people, single people, and they did single people things, and I didn't. I learned to speak Thai from bar girls and people in bars, you know. That's
well, you meet a lot of retired expats here, and we can start to, I guess, put people into buckets of what type of retired expat are you? Are you a pensioner? Are you well off? Are you wealthy? Are you a sexpat? Are you whatever? Of all the people, I mean, this is everyone's quite familiar with this word. Based on your experience in meeting different expats, specifically in Hua Hin, how would you start to categorize them or be able to, I know maybe it's not the right way to do it, label them, but to give the audience an understanding of the type of expats living in Hua Hin?
Well, I don't want to alienate Sandy Beach to anyone, but, you know, I can categorize a lot of people, and you know, there's people that are here. I'm going to say there's a great percentage. The people that are here, no matter where they're from, Europe, UK, Australia, Canada, America, they're here because they know this is paradisical. It's like paradise, and they love and understand that. Sure, there's bumps and humps and challenges, but they don't get miserable. And then there's the expats that come here and they're just miserable. And I don't know why. And you see them in the groups. And again, I don't want Sandy Beach getting alienated here, but you know, in the groups, you see a lot of miserable people. They call themselves, or people call them keyboard warriors. They only want to, they want to, I don't know. I don't know what they want, but they're not very happy to me. And, in my experience here in Hua Hin, playing music for 8.5 years, live music, nearly every day of the week, you know, I met a lot of people. You know, I watched them, you know, from the stage. You can see a lot. You know, you can see a lot of things, and I watched them being happy and celebrating where they were and what they were doing, and then I see some, you know, people at 10 a.m. at some restaurants down on Sesong Road, you know, downing beers at 10 a.m. And maybe they down some beers till 1 and go home and nap and come back out. I don't know. That's a whole aspect I don't know. I don't drink. It's just, that's for me, not drinking here, you know.
Yeah, I think you get the maybe different pensioners or people and whatnot coming in here, and
well,
some of them are here for their last beer.
But there's people that are here that came here with certainly very financially well off. And there's people here that are just getting by on, now, pensions. I've learned that all around the world, pension means a different thing. Scandinavian pension, European pensions. My pension came from my company. FedEx paid me very well to go away and not work anymore. We had a great time, but when they said, "Do you want to go?" I said, "Yes, I do." But, you know, I have a great pension, and I have Social Security, something I earned all of my working life from the time I was 14 until I retired at 62. They owe me that money. That's my money, you know. But there's people here that are on different kinds of pensions, and some are great. Oh, there's the military pensions, you know. People here on military pensions are doing really well, you know. And so, you know, I think that your economic security, I think, contributes to your level of enjoyment of this paradise, of how patient, tolerance, how much peace and serenity you can have in your life because there's no threat,
There's a pretty big myth or misconception, especially you see it on YouTube and different types of short form content, where it's being based around live in Thailand off $1,000 a month. Maybe realistic 10 years ago, 15 years ago. What are your thoughts on that, especially now that you are retired and everybody does need to be structured on a budget? Is $1,000 a month living in Thailand even feasible?
Are you single? Do you want to live in a one room, efficiency apartment or a condo somewhere? Maybe. You want to eat market food every day? Maybe. I think that's the angle those people are working off of. You want to live, do you want to have a partner? And if you want to have a partner, whether you bring one of your own or you find one here, that partner costs money. So whatever you're living on, now you have to double that, I mean, I moved here with someone who was a workaholic, Now we're divorced. We've been divorced for 5 years because she just couldn't live here anymore. I'm remarried now. I remarried a woman, and, she was a nurse during COVID, and she suffered PTSD after the first year. I mean, she didn't get home to her condo for nearly a year, They all had to live at the hospital. They had to eat at the hospital. They had to sleep at the hospital. And she saw so many people leave this vale of tears. And by December of 2020, she told them, if you don't give me some time off, I'm going to lose my mind. And she ended up in Cha'am with some friends for an R&R. And ended up, some Norwegian guy had just lost his in-home healthcare worker. And he was whining about it at some restaurant. And her friends go, oh, Nam's a nurse. She can do that. And then she entered into a 1 year live-in 24/7 day, caregiver with him. So that's how she got here. But she didn't want to go back to nursing. And when we got married, I told her, you don't have to do anything you don't want to do yet. We're comfortable here. But since then, she started selling clothes at the flea market at Blueport. And she really got into it. I mean, she's really, really into it, like finding good deals and finding beautiful clothes and maybe stitching up a few things. And she's really happy with that.
Just to keep her busy as well.
Yeah, it keeps her very busy. And she also, I don't know if I should say this, but, her brother is a Thai person who lives in Israel. A lot of Thai people work in farms in Israel.
Yep.
He was running a mafia lottery for the Thai people there, just using the numbers here, but someone had to take their numbers and collect their money.
Yep.
So he kind of handed this over to her. So she does that like twice a month. She's dedicated to, so she's got a pretty busy life now working.
And they're making a commission off the sale of the ticket, but it is all like a legit lottery as well. Like people are winning and getting paid.
They're winning and getting paid. Legit.
Yeah.
It's for people that don't live here. They can't come here and buy a ticket.
Yeah.
So it's a remote lottery, and everybody gets paid. I mean, some lottery days she makes 50,000 baht. Some lottery days she makes 10. It all depends on how the numbers roll out, But she's happy, and she's I support her 100%. But she's taking care of herself in a way now, So back to your question. I don't know. You could maybe edit all that out.
That's the good thing with a podcast. Okay. It's just you let it roll,
But back to your question. Can you live comfortably here on X amount of dollars? I'm pretty convinced, and I can only talk about U.S. dollars because I don't know what Canadian. I mean, even Canadian dollars, I don't know what they go with. But I have many Canadian friends. But I think on $3,000 to $4,000 US dollars a month, which is, I'm finding out from other people, that's pretty much the equal of pension and Social Security money most people are getting. Some much more, some a little less, But I think on $3,000, $4,000
It's comfortable.
U.S. dollars. Yeah, it's good. You can live comfortably.
Especially in a place like Hua Hin where it's 50% cheaper than places such as like Phuket.
Yeah, well, and again, when people were wondering where they want to go, are you single? Do you have burning money? Yeah, go live in Pattaya. If you're single and you want to live a life that's just kind of relaxed and normal, you come here. I just think, and during high season, it's a little different, just slightly different, and I don't know if you've ever been here or lived here during pre-COVID high season.
I did in Phuket, but not here.
Okay, well, here in Hua Hin, pre-COVID high season was pretty intense because that's when the Chinese were still coming here in mass, like tour buses through town, long lines of tour buses, because they go on these pilgrimages to all the Chinese shrines and temples, and they just keep coming down Pekasam Road all the way south, and they veer off to go to some sacred Chinese shrine that they've heard about.
So where did all the Chinese go? I've noticed that the tour buses have they've definitely slowed down since COVID.
Okay. This is just my take. It didn't really pick up after COVID because maybe they didn't want to travel or whatever. But this thing where that actor was lured here by Chinese people, he was lured down south. He was lured over to Myanmar with the promise of some great part and a lot of money, and they just kidnapped him and held him for ransom. Now, no Thai person was involved in that. Not one. They bagged him and tagged him and took him to Myanmar from Trot or someplace down there.
Was it the Burmese or the Chinese that did it?
The Chinese did it.
To their own
guy. Okay? And he was a famous actor. And he still is, but, that turned into a public relations nightmare for Thailand because through Chinese social media and the news, Thailand became unsafe for Chinese people. Mm-hmm. Not just unsafe for Chinese people. And I don't know who pushed that rhetoric. I don't know because, you might know, but I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah, but whoever pushed that, that's when you just saw the decline, a serious decline in Chinese tourists. When there used to be like caravans of tour buses going through town, all day long.
Yeah, we know even in Phuket, because the roads are so small there, that was a big problem to travel around the island. You get stuck behind a Chinese tour bus. But pretty much after COVID, I even noticed there as well it slowed down and it ceased to exist almost.
Well, that seemed like a natural thing when it slowed down after COVID. But when things were picking up and then that thing happened, then I said it was a public relations nightmare, but, it was an economic dent because they just stopped coming. I'm not saying they were the most pleasant tourists to be around. They were not. They treat Thai people terribly. They treat anybody else near them terribly, But I saw it was good for the economy of the country, I saw the big picture. But,
most of them, the cash, or let's say the revenue, it's settled in China. They come here, they're on the tour bus. They're not really exchanging dollars around here. They're going to the 7-Eleven. They're not bringing so much revenue into the country itself. It's getting done on like C-Trip in China.
Well, but the tour packages that they were putting together in Thailand, I mean, those companies were making money. The hotels were making money. The restaurants they chose to take these bus loads of people to were making money. And the concessions at these shrines were making money.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't overall the Thai economy. It was specific, specific markets that were making money, and but
and everyone's making their commission along the way. Yeah.
I don't miss them. I don't. I mean, here we are in the midst of probably the highest high season since 2020.
I haven't noticed it's been too busy here though. Everyone talks about high season in Thailand and Hua Hin. I felt it's quite calm. I don't notice any, extensive traffic. Nothing slowing it down.
It's higher. This is the highest high season since 2020.
Okay.
It just is. I just take my word for it. Maybe what you're used to in Phuket is a little different because of the traffic and the congestion and the places that are around the island that are like congestion, you know. But here, you know, you find it people walk in the streets with their backpacks on, can't leave their hotel without a backpack, you know, renting motorbikes when they've never ridden a motorbike in their life, you know. As a guy on a motorcycle, I'm ducking and dodging these guys all over. I noticed that it's picked up, and I see more younger people. And to get back to music, you know, there's, you know, so far Hua Hin's had 3 full moon festivals over at Pattaya Beach.
Yep.
And the majority of the people going there are young. And they're not so much tourist young, but they're Bangkok Thai young, you know. But I had some visitors here last beginning of the month. And we went to the after hours bars that are just next to the Hilton, the ones that stay open till 4 and 5. And I was like, where did all these young people come from? You know, like, where are they coming from? I don't see them when I go to Rock Zone or I go to Woodstock or I go to Fame or I go to Cheers. I don't see them. But I was at Panama on a Monday night when they didn't have a band. They only had a DJ. It was wall to wall.
What time was that at?
Like about 12 o'clock.
Wow.
And they stayed open till 2 that night. And I'm not 100% sure how long they're supposed to stay open. But Sam across the street was packed. And, you know, but I see these people, and when I say young people, I mean, you know, people in their from mid-20s to mid-30s. And I don't know where they are, why they're here, how they're here, but I do get a lot of requests, Sandy Beach does, for where are the nightclubs, you know?
I think people are now starting more coming from Bangkok. I mean, there's a lot of expats living there, and maybe not so much going to Pattaya anymore as it's another reason a lot of people from Pattaya are moving here. It's overrun. There's the big conversation of it's infiltrated with Indians and everyone's getting tired of the traffic. So I think Hua Hin is becoming more of a destination choice from Bangkok rather than them going to Pattaya.
That's possibly true. And, you know, I said, I have no explanation when I go out a lot because that's Sandy Beach's job to keep his finger on the pulse. But, you know, I had visitors here that wanted to do many things and they want to stay out late. And, you know, so I said, okay, well, here are all your choices. So they wanted to see dance places, you know, and now, you know, in the last 2 months, you know, 5 dance clubs have opened up, you know.
Down by the Hilton or?
Well, there's Tiger in Tabat. Yep. And there's Bar I'm sorry. It's right next to I don't know why I'm not remembering the name.
Yeah, I saw a bunch on Facebook popping up. It seems like there's trying to build a little bit more of a club scene, essentially.
Yeah, and Blush. Yeah, and next to Blush is this Rose thing that just opened up. I mean, it's been open a week, so we've yet to see what they want to have. But why aren't I not remembering?
We'll cut that in at the end.
No, I could open my phone and tell you in a minute.
I want to because the whole concept that we were discussing on the music scene in Thailand, and as we got another 10 minutes. Let's focusing on the music side. We had that discussion on the phone yesterday, and I've always wondered, hey, why is there not live music at 4 p.m., 5 p.m.? Because usually we're in bed at 8:30, and I wish there was something to go see. You told me the whole story on the economics and the business side, why that occurs. Can you explain that to the audience? Why is it so difficult in Hua Hin to find good music at 4 or 5 p.m.?
Okay, and I'm glad that this opportunity is here. And I did it once on a Surf 102. I did an interview there too. Every single musician in this town, This is their job. They don't have another job. They're not a cook. They're not a baker. They're not working in a bank. They are musicians. And so to make money, because they have families, to make money to feed their families and pay their rent, and so their kids have clothes to go to school, and put gas in their car and strings on their guitars, and to keep their equipment up, they have to work all night long. So most musicians have a solo or a duo or a trio thing they do from 5 or 5:30 till 7:30, or 6 to 8, 8:30. Some of them play 3 times. But the bands, which are the conglomeration of all those individuals, start at 9 because they're done playing their solo and duo gigs. So why does everything start at 9 p.m.? Because that's when they're all available to be in their band. And I said, without naming all the bands, that's how it works. They all have something going earlier in the evening. And I can give you a list of all the great music that's happening from, say, 5 o'clock.
Yeah, I think that's a good piece of content because the beauty of short form content, it gets more views, it has more reach, and I'll condense this down into something that's very digestible for the audience.
Right.
But if you can kind of go off on a tangent and explain, if you're coming to Hua Hin, where do we go for what type of music and what time?
So there's rock bars and blues rock bars, hard rock bars, and then there's a blues bar, a Woodstock, just on Soy May Kep 2. And let's remember the name of that street, Soy May Kep 2. It runs from the railway, where across from Ban Kun Pur, not Bankanor or Nankinbor, or Ban Kun Pur, my father's house, runs from there all the way to 94. And along that is a strip of bars and live music and girl bars and restaurants. It's very busy. I started calling it the Beale Street of Hua Hin because you can just walk down the street and step into a bar with live music.
Is that the one where you would turn right? So would you go left
You know
at
where
88?
Scruffy's is? No.
Yeah,
Okay. Let's start with Scruffy's.
Okay.
Turn right at Scruffy's. Okay.
Coming from which direction?
Coming from the east. So you cross the railway, you go past Wonderland,
Yep.
you get up to that cross street. That cross street is Soy May Kep 2.
Okay.
And it angles all the way back to
88.
Ban Kumpur, 88.
Well, where they have the Chang live music going on at night, that big night market, that's all the way out.
Yeah.
If you're to turn right.
Yeah, that's Ban Kumpur. And that's just live music every night, Thai music,
Yeah.
100% Thai music, 100% really loud. But, it depends on where you sit. You want to complain about the loud, you can go sit like all the way on the south side of it and not hear a thing. So Soy May Kep 2 has about 8 live music bars on it. Blues rock, and then there's 3 DJ venues.
What are the names of all these bars for people to find?
Okay. Well, there's Woodstock is blues, and Cheers is blues and blues rock and some Thai. Fame is rock, blues rock, mostly blues rock and rock, hard rock. And just down the street is on the railway is Rock Zone. It's hard rock and some modern rock. Not across the street from all of these places, this Blush just opened up, which is going to be a gastronomic place, but they're going to have some of the best DJs in town there. I mean, I could do an entire hour with you on the great DJs that reside here in Hua Hin and are playing every night.
And they're playing all types of music they're
playing house, they're playing retro disco, they're playing EDM,
What does it take to be, coming from the music world, what does it take to be a great DJ compared to myself showing up with my phone and turning on Spotify and hitting a playlist?
The mix. It's the mix. It's the choice of music, and it's the mix. I could talk to you an hour about there's a group called By the Light. They do all their own beats, all their own music, record. They throw vocals over the top. They're actually playing tomorrow, Saturday night. They're at Bar.
This is the one we're still trying to figure out.
Is it Bar Tigre?
Tiger? Maybe bar.
No, there's okay. I have to do this, or I'll
Okay,
lose my mind.
We're gonna look it up right now. Don't worry, we got time.
Okay.
Yeah. The whole. I'll talk to the camera a bit. The whole like nightlife scene here. I find it is better around Soy 94 specifically. Are there any large, whether obviously not stadiums, but venues where they could host maybe 5,000 people, 3,000 people?
No. But there was a venue, which is now a boxing arena, when Jamjan was open. That's right on the railway, and it's right across the street from Rock Zone. It was the biggest nightclub. It was amazing, and they had like Secloso. They had a band every night, but they would bring in famous people and fill it. And I'm gonna guess that the max capacity there was like 3,000, 4,000. It's completely full. But they violated the law one too many times, and they got shut down. They can't own a liquor license for 6 years. But miraculously, on Saturday, which you won't hear, but on Saturday the 24th, Jamchan is now Jamchan Stadium, and it's opening up with a 10-card fight night. And they brought in, it's a boxing arena now.
Where is this arena?
On the railway.
Yep.
Between 94 and 88, it's more like it's about 200 meters north of 94 on the railway.
Okay.
Yeah, it used to be
I know that I've seen the small ones out. There's a smaller one.
Yeah, there's about 1 million small ones, but this is now a legit. I'll show you when we finish this, but it's a legit stadium. They just brought all the stuff in this week, and my friends were over there while they were assembling it, so they kind of documented with video and photos what putting the ring up and now how they're going to have the seating. But it was just the greatest nightclub that in Thailand that I've been in. And there's a really good one up on the cafe, Dong Lor Cafe, across from Big C on Palau Road. They have like 3-4 bands every night. Big nightclub, big.
Yeah, there's many options. For me, it's by 7 I'm done.
Yeah, you're done.
I need to change my.
We got to fix that.
Yeah, we got to fix that. At least I need to stagger it into the weekend.
Is there any energy stuff in here?
Yeah, even that. Don't worry, that stuff. It's just sugar pills. It doesn't even work. All right. I think we could probably talk for hours. If anything, I'd like to bring you back on again, and we can have another conversation in a couple months. I'm sure the audience would love it. We try to keep this under an hour for the YouTube dictatorship algorithm. They don't allow it. So we're going to wrap up this episode. We'll definitely bring Terry back on, so you can let us know in the comments if you have any more questions and stuff we didn't cover. I feel we've only touched the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot more to dive deeper into, especially with your experience in Thailand and what's next for you as well. So we're going to wrap up that episode. Finally, I'm going to pass the big, now you can talk to the audience, the big camera over there. I'm going to cut that over to Terry. And if you can just let everyone know where they can find you. We're going to put links in the description, but Terry's going to let you know exactly where you can find them, exactly where you can find all that nightlife entertainment information as well. Okay, so shoot that back over to Terry.
On Facebook, Sandy Beach. I list every day by 9 o'clock, pretty much at the latest. I list all the live and DJ music that's playing for that day. I put little highlights on the top or what I think will be attractive to people. I also list dance and other cultural things as well. I have a database with the Heaven is Hua Hin online publication that is right now like 99% being recoded. And I used to put that out every day that you could just click on one link and see it all with pictures and descriptions. That'll be back very soon. And I have a Facebook group called Hua Hin Musicians and Music Fans that all the bands and venues post their events to. So, I post to 28 groups every day. If you're part of one of those groups, you might see what I'm putting out there.
Yeah, I found it from friends over at golf, so a big shout out to David Stone.
Yeah, and tell your friends.
Yeah, tell your friends. I mean, there is that information out there. Yep. So that wraps up another episode of the Fruiting Body Podcast. Thanks for watching. Don't forget, like, subscribe, leave comments, and hopefully we can get Terry back in. Hopefully he didn't hate this experience.
Did not.
We'll get him back in because then I think we can go a little bit deeper as well. Okay. And we are out. Thank you.